Hey friends, welcome back to our faith formation series with tough questions and tough maybe answers. Today, I am wrestling with a question of my own, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, is it okay to be mad at God? And I think the answer to that is yes. But I think something I personally am searching for is if it's okay to be angry at God, and when we're angry about what's happening in the world, is it okay? Is it okay to be angry and to wonder where God is? Because sometimes that feeling can feel kind of lonely, like as if we humans are just out here to figure it out for ourselves. And we say God is with us, and all of a sudden, when the hard thing happens, we can still say God is with us, but do we believe that? Is there conviction that God is present in a really hard thing? So that is where I sit, right? I wonder about this question, and some of the things that I think about when I think about is it okay to be angry with God? Well, first of all, I think yes. I think it is okay to be angry at God because God can take our emotion, right? And when I think about biblically who has been angry at God, I think about Job and some of the psalmists, right? Job had everything. Job had house and plenty of livestock and great skin and a wife and lots of kids, and all of a sudden it was all taken away, right? And Job was not happy. He complained, he yelled, and he was mad at God. The psalmist in Psalm 13 did the same thing. He is feeling abandoned and alone and writes it. He is angry with God. The psalmist is angry with God. And so when we're angry with God, usually it stems from confusion, right? Like there's lots of questions as to why whatever this thing is making us angry. So maybe we have a lot more questions when we're angry with God. Why is this happening? How am I going to make it through this? God, are you with me? God, are you there? We say you're there, God, but do we know? Do we believe? Is there the conviction, right? So our anger often turns into questions towards God. And even when we're mad at God, and even when we have questions about God and God's presence in all the things, God still loves us, right? God still loves us and all of our emotions. God created our emotions as a way for us to connect with one another, and to connect with God. So we can be angry with God. And we can still question and feel and search for God's presence in a hard thing. I think something that I realize when we talk about, like, is God there? The presence of God in difficult things. That has to be us actively searching for God to be there. Or at least in my experience, when something bad is happening, I have to actively search for God in hard situations. And in our world right now, we're having to do a lot of searching for God's presence because it feels like one thing after the next, after the next. And after the year we just had, like, God, are you there? Are you there? Like, we know you're here, but where? And for me, that came with frustration and being angry with God for what is going on in the world. And so, yeah, I think we can be angry with God. I think God created all of our emotions, and therefore God can hold all of our emotions. And when we are angry with God, it's because we don't understand. But that doesn't mean that God's work in the world is not there. That doesn't mean that God isn't working in what's going on in the world today. So, yes, my answer is yes. It is okay to be angry with God. And it's okay to have to search for where God is in what we don't understand. And God is still there. God is still moving. And I think the thing that isn't necessarily reassurance, but something we work for is being sure to look for where God is moving in a hard thing, in a hard situation, in the pandemic, in all of the racial tensions in our world right now, in deciding whether to send our kids back to school, or all of the hard decisions and all the hard things we're absorbing right now. We have to choose to look for God's movement in that. We have to see the good that God is doing in the world in those places. So yes, I think that's my answer. I believe it's okay to be angry with God. I think it's okay to be curious about where God is when hard things are happening. But I think we have to choose to look for God's movement in the world. That may not answer our confusion. It may not answer what we don't understand, but that doesn't mean that God's not there, and it doesn't mean that God can't hold our frustration. So I think those two things go together for me right now. Is I'm angry with God because I don't understand, and our world is filled with things I don't understand right now. So I think the answer is yes, and we have to look for God. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Is it okay to be angry with God? God still loves us in our anger, so it's okay to be angry. And so I want to know what you think. What do you wrestle with under all of this topic around being angry with God and looking for God in hard places? So yeah, I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, friends. See ya.